Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Sicario, the day of the Soldado. And I remember when I heard that there was going to be a sequel to this film, and a lot of people were saying, like, this is not a film that needed a sequel. And truth be told, this is an interesting way of continuing the story of some of the characters from the original Sicario. I'm a huge fan of Taylor Sheridan, the screenwriter, so I was really excited that he would be writing this again. But the unfortunate thing is, like, Denis Villeneuve and Roger Deakins weren't coming back, so I was a little worried about the technical prowess of the film. And I really, really enjoyed this film a lot, and it was something very different than most mainstream films that you'll see, because this is so dire and so dark and really takes on a very gruesome look at what's going on in our country, in Mexico, and really the climate of our society today. And I know a lot of people had issues with this film portraying, like, I heard some people referring to this as like crazy right-wing wet dream kind of thing, especially because of the beginning of this film. And I don't feel like this film glorifies anything. It doesn't glorify any perspective. I really feel like this film points the camera at just how dark and bleak so many things can be, and really deals with them in an interesting way. This is by no means as good as the first film. It definitely has its weaknesses, but I think Stefano Sollima, who's the director of this film, does a really good job of picking up where Denis Villeneuve took this film and what he created. It's not as clean, it's not as smooth and put together as the first film, because the direction, the cinematography, and the editing of the original Sicario was like pitch perfect. And there's some moments where this isn't as completely smooth, but I feel like Sollima takes such a great care into creating such a tone for this film, because this film really is tense, it's brutal, there's really strong suspense, and the beginning of this film is hard to watch, honestly, because this film pulls no punches. This really goes for it, and I admire this film for that, because it really does take a perspective of things aren't good, and this is going to show how dark things can get. And especially the very beginning on how this film is set up, and I'm not going to give away how, because I think that would take away from the impact of what happens. But I feel like this film really takes a look at how bad things can get, and maybe just how worse we can react to it. And because a lot of the motivations in this are really dark. The big thing for this film was a lot of people were concerned that Emily Blunt wasn't coming back. And so you're up to the devices of these two characters played by Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro. And a lot of people have criticized this film for being like super macho, masculine, toxic masculinity, honestly. And I feel like this film does does good enough job to show how bad that kind of attitude can be, because I feel like the characters in this film go at least to places where you see some growth and you see some remorse on what has to be done. There are some completely disgusting characters in this film. A lot of them are government people too, and this really takes a look at that. And Benicio del Toro is so subdued and intense, intimidating. He has such presence. And then Josh Brolin is basically one of the only people that actually cuts the tension at all in this film, because his character in the first one seemed a lot really laissez-faire about everything, and would crack jokes and seem like another day at the office. And you see a darker, grittier version of that character in this film, but there's little moments where he can cut the tension a little bit with a little bit of a joke. I hate Mondays. But Josh Brolin's so fantastic. He's been on his game this year and in recent years. And then Isabella Moner is the young woman, and I think she was really good. I feel like she really captured this character, and we really felt for that character watching this film. The supporting cast was really good too. A lot of like Catherine Keener, Matthew Modine, a lot of them didn't get as much to do in terms of the film with their characters, but they did their job really well. This is deeply thematic and really taking a look at this dark cloud that's covering the southern states and Mexico, and really what's going on and how we should handle this, and really pulling no punches with the brutality that people go to in this situation and looking at that. And Taylor Sheridan overall does a really good job. The unfortunate thing is some of the big negatives for this film for me were on the writing end, which made me really sad because Taylor Sheridan is one of my favorite screenwriters. But then Darius Wolski, who did the cinematography, who works with Ridley Scott a lot, really did a good job. There's some great shots in this film. This was really well put together. The action was really well done, which really, in this film, the action is not what you would expect glorified action like an action movie. It's brutal, it's violent, and it's sudden and impactful, and I feel like they did a good job of carrying that over from the first film. The music by Hildur Guðnadóttir, who took over for Jóhann Jóhannsson, who passed away, and does a really good job of making a tense, atmospheric score for this film. And this film's unpredictable. I didn't see where this was going, honestly. And unfortunately, there's some really unrealistic moments that I didn't appreciate, which the first film's so dark and gritty and grounded that it felt weird having that kind of sequences in this film. And certain scenes felt like it was distracting towards the beginning of the film because this has a parallel story in it, and it didn't feel like it was really connecting until at least halfway through the film, where it felt like I'm getting ripped out of the tension of the film to go look at this other story, and it didn't feel like it was really worth it until later in the film. So that made the first act a little choppy for me. But I think this is a well done film, a really impactful film, something that's worth checking out and seeing. I will admit, this is extremely violent, extremely brutal, and extremely tense. So if you can't handle that, this is not a movie for you. I would just say don't listen to so many of the reviews. And the thing is, film is subjective, so go out and check it out on your own. The reviews are mixed. I think this is a really well done film. I highly recommend. If you like the first Sicario and want something close to what that was, go check this out. And it's playing everywhere, so go check out Sicario, Day of the Soldado.